Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back with our weekly recap of all things Injustice. The current character challenge is Blackest Night Martian Manhunter. That is a 1 week repeat. The required characters for that are Cyborg, Sinestro, and Lex Luthor, who are all available as low as bronze tier directly from the store. So really great stuff for people who are newer to the game and looking to get challenge characters.
Right.
His passive is Shifter, which reads John cycles through different offensive buffs. And John is the
John
real
Jones.
name of Blackest Night Martian Manhunter here.
Yeah.
Life Drain. Health siphoned goes to his entire team. Increased power generation and increased defense. He's got 1,000 attack and 1,1300 health, and he was last available on the 13th of April of last year, 2023.
Right. So he's got good upper middle class stats. Same total numbers as last week's Arkham Knight Catwoman, but the attack and health are flipped, which is not what we like. We like more in the attack. So, and they call it 3 offensive buffs, but clearly defense is defensive.
Mm-hmm.
He always starts on defense, where he only takes half damage. That's the blue aura that he has. And the first time when he's in the game, whether it's because he's in first slot or whether you tag him in for the first time, that defensive aura lasts 3 seconds only.
Mm-hmm.
After that, each time it cycles through, it's 14 seconds. Life Drain is next. It's the shortest and is only 6 seconds. And Power Generation is yellow, and that lasts 14 seconds too.
Yeah. So
one of our viewers has recently asked about fun interactions with characters. And with Blackest Night Martian Manhunter, there used to be a really fun glitch that required a specific set of conditions. So he needed to have the full LexCorp gear set to get the second damage over time ability. Which is when 3 out of 3 gears are equipped, there's a 1.5 base damage applied every second to enemy, because he doesn't have his own sort of inherent damage over time. I mean, you could use whatever, but this picks up without actually having to do an attack and potentially knocking out the opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Blackest Night Martian Manhunter has to be in the life drain part of the cycle, so he's pulling health from he's using the health that he's doing damage to heal, and the enemy has to have no health to give. They're down to 1 health, and even though there's active damage over time can't knock out the opponent. So when that happened, he would give ridiculous amounts of health to himself and his teammates. We got a video showing that where he could literally generate millions of health for his teammates when that sort of specific set of circumstances would hit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so if we get to the serious part of them, of the pre-made teams, and by pre-made I mean, and we talked about this just in our Q&A, right? About what it means when you look at what's the word? There was a word for not typical, but I can't remember now. So they're the same conventional teams. That's it. So they're teams from the same universe. So the developers are basically telling you that they belong together. Out of all those teams, this is one of the good ones. The Blackest Night team is strong, but unfortunately, Martian Manhunter isn't one of the strongest ones. Problem is, his passive has nothing to do with his teammates. So he pretty much stands alone. He's just as good on his own as he is with his teammates, unless his teammates give him a buff. And because of that, and his health loaded stats, he's not exactly my favorite character to play with. Mm-hmm. So you're seeing a demonstration of him right now, not on a Blackest Night team, but with the prototype Hawkgirl and Rebirth Raven teammates to make him the star. What's good about him is that his special 2 can knock out on more than just the last hit. And even better is that there are lots of pauses in his special, so that including between the 3rd and 4th hit, 4th being he's got 4 total hits, which means that if you knock out someone with this 3rd hit, which happens more than not more than anything. Well, it just happens a decent amount of time. You can do some damage with the 4th. What's bad is that the 3rd hit is not ranged, which is a little weird because the others are, right? So the problem with Master's Death Card, that shoving people back, and Master's Death Card plus 10-2 totem is a typical way to tag in somebody with special 2 right away, right? Mm-hmm. So he has that problem, even if it isn't as obvious, because his first 2 hits will land. They are ranged. But if you're too far away, the 3rd hit will whiff, and then the 4th hit will land. And the 3rd hit does a significant amount of damage, of the stated damage for his special 2. So that's a bit of a problem. Meaning if you're using Master's Death card to build up power for a special antagon, you really don't want to just drop a special 2 immediately, and you need to wait.
Mm-hmm.
The other problem is he is not top 3 Blackest Night. So clearly number 1 is Blackest Night Flash. Healing power generation with damage over time for himself and his teammates is hard to beat. Hawkgirl reviving teammates increases all of her teammates' effectiveness. Right? She's basically doubling each of her teammates. Definitely doubling Flash, whose extra part of his passive is he gets full health when he revives.
Mm-hmm.
So Batman's Blackest Night Batman's unblockable chance is, I think, much better than Manhunter's cycling passive, because the unblockable chance is to all his teammates. So now all 3 members of your team have an unblockable chance, as opposed to one of your guys is sitting around cycling through these, 2 offensive and 1 defensive abilities.
Yeah.
So I think essentially that means Manhunter is the second tier.
Yeah, he's like the 4th best.
If he is that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so based off of the challenge cycle pattern that's been going on for years at this point, next week we expect the challenge reward to be Arkham Origins Joker.
Right.
Which brings us to the multiplayer reward, which for this week is Blackest Night Doomsday. It's funny that they sync up, because
it's a neat coincidence, because that won't sync up for a while, because you've got a 43 reward sequence, a 31 reward sequence.
Mm-hmm. They don't divide evenly into each other, so it's a very
Are they
long
both
time.
prime numbers?
Oh, yeah, I think we've talked about this before. Yeah,
I can't remember now.
So it's going to be a very long time before this syncs up again. So
Right.
This is an interesting coincidence.
Right.
And his passive is Dark Momentum, which is well tagged in. Doomsday special attacks builds up over time to do a total of 2x damage, so double the damage.
Right.
He's got 1,050 attack, 1,400 health. Was last available in July of last year. And next week we expect to see Ares based off of the multiplayer reward cycle.
Right. So another Blackest Night character, it is a fortuitous coincidence. Another Blackest Night character with decent overall stats, but it's loaded in the health. So only 1050 damage, but 1400 health.
Which is never our preference.
Right. So his passive gives a 1/3 boost to the special for every 7 seconds that he's in play. So it's not 7 seconds after the fight starts. He actually has to be in the fight on screen.
Mm-hmm.
And the passive means that the way the passive works means that you're not going to be able to use it as part of making him the star of the team. Because in my mind, the star needs to be your first damage dealer. And in that Tantu Totem Master's Death card loadout, if you're dropping him in, you're not getting any benefit of his passive until you're really sort of, for most of fights, at least a good quarter to halfway through your fight. And if you really want to do it fast, it's just going to kill your time a bit.
Yeah, really the problem is that even if it's hard to trigger, when it's a triggerable passive, you can often do something to make it happen more often.
Yeah.
But because this one is just time-based, it's not great. Like if it was a little bit more every time you used a special, or every time you did a certain action, or something, healed, whatever, right? You could manipulate it and make it work better for you. But at this speed, there's really nothing to do except wait, and so you're just playing normally and getting less than his full potential, which feels like a bit of a ripoff. Yeah.
And I mean, he's probably good enough that you can, because there's a lot of characters with really no effective passive that you can still make a star with that prototypical loadout or team composition that we're using.
Mm-hmm.
So like all Blackest Night characters, Doomsday gets much better being on the same team as Blackest Night Hawkgirl, because her passive revives Blackest Night teammates. Makes him a little more tanky, so he has a better chance of surviving the 21 seconds you need for his passive to double his specials.
Yeah.
And I guess he could be okay as your specialist. But do you give him gears to get him to his specials faster? I think you have to. Tantu Totem Master's Death card. But what's the third slot? Do you make him more tanky so that he can survive long enough to take advantage of his passive? Because if your fight is dragging on and he's a star and you haven't knocked out the opponents, there's a better than even chance that you're going to be taking some damage.
Yeah.
And in my mind, the best characters, the most powerful characters, don't require that kind of trade-off. So, like I said, Blackest Night team, best characters are Hawkgirl, Flash, and Batman.
Mm-hmm.
So Doomsday, Doomsday and Martian Manhunter, they might make the team if you're missing one of the other ones.
Mhm.
Or, again, you don't have to go all Blackest Night, although it is very tempting because the devs tell us basically that these guys are in the same universe.
But it's funny that both of their passives actually don't rely on having other Blackest Night teams.
Right.
So these are kind of two of the fills. In all likelihood, you know, if you're getting both of these and you don't have a full team, you might have at most one other Blackest Night character. So this might be your way of building sort of your first Blackest Night team.
That's a good point. I mean, I hadn't thought of it, but the three that I ranked the highest, they all improve each other. Yeah. Hawkgirl revives everybody. Flash gives everybody power generation and healing with damage over time. And Batman gives all of them unblockable chance.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Moving on to the store, we have the Arkham Origin Joker bundle. That is for $24.99 Canadian, all prices in Canadian, because that's where we are, so that's the info we have.
That's the only currency that matters.
Yeah. So for $24.99, you get Arkham Origins Joker, and you also get the 100,000 power credits. It doesn't unlock in your store, so it's not worth buying as long as you think you're going to be able to do the challenge next week, and you don't really want just one sort of copy to have in your collection.
Right.
Because doing the challenge is always going to be the best way of both getting the character and also opening the ability to buy future copies for credits.
Right.
We also have the Tag Team Pack for $24.99, and that comes with 3 characters. You get Luchador Bane, Hawkgirl Prime, and New 52 Nightwing. And the first 2 of those are challenge characters, and the third one is available in the store. So for $24.99, that's sort of about the average kind of deal you're looking at getting from a store pack for real money. I don't think it's worth it, but I never really think any of the in-store purchases are particularly good deals, unfortunately.
Right. And we've got our second week of the character bundle Women of Power that we talked about last week.
So there we go. Phantom Zone is finished. We have Flight 62 still being broken.
Being broken.
I don't know how to refer to it, yeah.
And last weekend's breakthrough for golds was, as expected, Cyborg, Batgirl, and Black Adam. This coming weekend's is probably going to be Deadshot, Wonder Woman, and Static, based on the cycle that we've linked in the description, a thread in the Injustice Mobile subreddit from Devlin16 that goes over the complete breakthrough cycle that's been pretty consistent for the last couple of years.
So this is not the first week of the month, which is when we go into more detail on all of the glitches. We would also go into more detail if anything changed. So, you know, nothing's changed in between this week and last week. All the glitches are, as far as we're aware anyways, working exactly the same. Important to mention, Blackest Night Martian Manhunter reset glitch is still, the challenge reset glitch is still working, and we've tested and confirmed that this week. Stumbling over my words a little bit right at the finish line here.
It's been a long day.
Has been. So there we go. And if you do want to see our complete discussion of all of the current glitches, you can check our video last week on the 1st of February.
Right.
To finish up, we'd like to give a huge thank you to all of our lovely supporters on Patreon. That would be Michael Devries, Irvin, Ruiz, Hoshi127, and Nora Klimek supporting us on the credited level. So thank you to you all, as well as the names scrolling past who have supported us at some point during the pandemic. We'd also like to give a smaller but still significant thank you to everybody who's made it all the way to the end of this video, and anybody who sort of engages and interacts with us in any way. So thank you to you as well. We'll see you next time.
Komoda.